Out. I said get out. The words exploded like a gunshot across the polished marble floors of Lexington National Bank. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Customers froze with paperwork in hand. The only sound that remained was the echo of that one word, out. At the center of the commotion stood an elderly black man. His coat was faded, his slacks a little loose at the waist, and his wallet, old, worn, and carefully stitched at the edges, hung gently in his trembling hand. But his back? Still straight. His eyes? Calm and steady. I just came to access my safety deposit box, he said, his voice low but resolute as he extended a small ID card. Been banking here over 40 years. Across the counter stood Kyle Brent, the bank's branch manager. A man in his 30s, dressed in a tailored gray suit and a red power tie that screamed arrogance more than professionalism. He didn't even look at the ID properly. Sure you did, Kyle said, smirking as he crossed his arms. Let me guess, you forgot your account number, too? The man nodded patiently. My name is Elijah Moore. It's all in the system. My box hasn't been touched in years. Kyle snorted. Yeah, well that's funny. Because what I see is some old guy with a fake ID trying to pull a scam. You people really think we're stupid, huh? There was a collective gasp from several customers nearby. A mother held her child closer. An elderly couple sitting near the service desk turned in shock. A young teller covered her mouth with her hand. But Kyle kept going. Listen, either show us proof of millions, or take your hustle somewhere else, he barked. And then, without warning, he did something that made the entire room gasp again. He tossed the ID to the floor like it was a piece of trash. The small card landed by Elijah's feet with a soft click, spinning slightly before settling face down. The old man looked down at it slowly. His lips pressed together, but he didn't say a word. His hands, those same hands that once built his own trucking company from the ground up, now shook, not from fear, but from the sheer insult of it all. He bent over slowly and picked up the card. Still, he didn't raise his voice. Still, he said nothing. But his silence was loud. Too loud. Kyle, satisfied with his power trip, straightened his jacket, adjusted his tie, and turned to walk away like a man who had just rid his establishment of a nuisance. He didn't notice the tall figure at the glass entrance of the bank. A man in a navy suit, just stepping in from the hot sun outside. A man whose eyes were already locked on Elijah. He saw everything. The thrown ID, the sneer, the arrogance, the insult. And now, as Elijah straightened himself, brushing off his coat and slipping the ID back into his wallet, the tall man's jaw clenched. His footsteps began echoing across the lobby as he approached the scene like a storm cloud ready to burst. Meanwhile, Kyle walked toward the back office, sipping from a branded bank coffee cup like he'd just handled an inconvenience. In his mind, it was over. Just another incident with another nobody. But what Kyle didn't know, what he couldn't possibly imagine, was that the man he had just humiliated was the father of one of the most powerful businessmen in the country. And that tall man walking in, he wasn't just a witness. He was about to change everything. The bank doors swung open wide, glass panels clattering softly against the polished brass frames. Every head turned. In stepped a tall, sharply dressed black man in a custom-tailored navy blue suit. His shoes gleamed, his jaw was tight, and his presence instantly changed the temperature of the room. His name was Malik Moore, and though few recognized him by sight, almost everyone in the country had heard of his company, Moore Tech Solutions, the revolutionary firm on the verge of a $5 billion tech finance merger. But in that moment, Malik wasn't there as a CEO. He was there as a son. His eyes locked onto the older man still standing near the teller window, bent slightly as he placed his ID back into his wallet. The manager was gone now, vanished into his office like a coward after the confrontation. Dad? Malik called out, his voice carrying more shock than he intended. Elijah Moore turned, startled, but his soft smile was immediate. Malik, he said, folding his wallet. It's nothing. Just a misunderstanding. But Malik was already moving. Fast. He crossed the room in seconds and stood beside his father, his arm automatically slipping around the old man's shoulders. His eyes scanned the area, every customer, every employee. Then his gaze stopped. A young teller, maybe no older than 23, stood frozen behind her desk, biting her lip nervously. Malik turned to her. Did someone speak to my father disrespectfully? The girl hesitated, then nodded, slowly, almost guiltily. Manager Brent. He accused him of lying. Called him a scammer. And then, her voice trailed off as she swallowed hard, He threw his ID on the ground. A man behind her added in a hushed voice, "It was ugly, sir. Really ugly." Malik's jaw clenched. "Where is he?" As if on cue, Brent emerged from the hallway, holding his coffee like a trophy, clearly unaware of the storm brewing. He locked eyes with Malik and chuckled dismissively. "Look, I don't know who you are, but we have rules here. Your father didn't belong in this branch." "Didn't belong?" Malik repeated, stepping forward until they were nose to nose. Kyle blinked, but didn't back down. "We get people all the time trying to run scams. No offense, but he didn't look like someone who should even have a safety deposit box, let alone 40 years of banking history. It's protocol." There was a thick pause. Even the bank security guards standing near the corner stopped pretending to check their radios. Then Malik smiled. But it wasn't the kind of smile you wanted to see. "You're right," he said softly, his voice calm but dangerous. "My father doesn't belong here." Kyle smirked again, lifting his coffee. "Glad we're on the same page." But Malik didn't move. He leaned in and said something that made Kyle's smirk drop instantly. "And neither do I." The weight of those 5 words hit like a hammer. Customers looked at one another, whispering. A woman near the ATM took out her phone and began filming. Something was happening, something big. Kyle straightened, a flicker of confusion on his face now. "Excuse me." But Malik didn't repeat himself. He simply pulled out his phone and tapped the screen with surgical precision. Kyle scoffed. "What are you filming this? Think I care? Put it on TikTok, buddy." Malik didn't even look up. The screen lit up with a video call connecting, and then suddenly, the seal of Regal Financial Holdings, the parent company of the bank, appeared on the screen. One by one, executives' faces popped up on the screen in a boardroom setting. "Good afternoon," Malik said into the camera. "This is Malik Moore, CEO of Moore Tech Solutions. We were about to finalize our $5 billion account transfer into your bank." The room went dead silent. Kyle's face turned the color of paper. Malik slowly turned the camera toward Elijah, who stood beside him quietly, with more pride than pain in his expression. "This is my father," Malik said, now looking Kyle directly in the eyes. "And this is what your bank thinks of him." Kyle rolled his eyes. "Oh, really? What, are you about to film a TikTok or something?" Malik didn't react. No anger. No raised voice. Just icy calm as he pulled out his phone and tapped a few buttons. A soft chime rang through the speaker as a secure video conference began connecting. Within seconds, a boardroom appeared on-screen, sleek walls, glass table, and a full panel of executives staring back with curiosity. "This is Malik Moore," he said without hesitation, CEO of Moore Tech. "We were set to transfer $5 billion in company funds into this bank as our exclusive financial partner." Gasps erupted from the screen. Board members leaned forward. One of them even dropped a pen. Kyle's smug expression froze. Malik turned the phone, slowly and deliberately, toward Elijah. "This is my father. The man your branch manager just humiliated, insulted, and accused of fraud." On the other end, there was a chorus of shocked murmurs. The bank's CFO jumped in immediately, his voice frantic. "Mr. Moore, please, this is the first we're hearing of this. We are so sorry. That behavior is completely unacceptable. We'll handle this immediately." But Malik held up a hand. "You don't need to apologize to me." He turned to Elijah, standing quiet but proud beside him. "Apologize to the man who made me who I am." Kyle's face turned gray. Elijah looked surprised, but not for long. That same quiet dignity remained in his eyes, as if this moment was not about revenge, but correction. Malik continued, now addressing the room full of executives. "You don't treat black elders like criminals. You don't get to judge a man by his clothes. You don't throw someone's ID to the floor just because they don't look like your version of wealthy." He let those words hang in the air. "You treat people with respect, or you lose everything." And in that moment, they all knew. They had just lost a $5 billion deal. An emergency board meeting was called within 30 minutes. Executives scrambled, some still in golf polos, others dialing in from sleek offices in New York and San Francisco. The bank's regional VP arrived in person, red-faced and sweating through his suit, barely able to form sentences as he rushed to calm Malik Moore. They brought coffee, apologies, even bonuses. One woman from the PR team clutched a folder of prepared statements, whispering frantically about reputation management and media strategy. But Malik sat stone-faced at the conference table, his father beside him. Elijah said little. He didn't need to. His presence was statement enough. "I wanted to give this community bank a chance," Malik said, calmly and clearly. Because I believe in rebuilding trust in the neighborhoods that raised us. I believe in second chances. But tell me. He paused and looked directly at the CEO of Regal Financial Holdings. If this is how you treat your oldest customers, what happens when no one's watching? The room fell into a deep silence. No one dared to answer. The CEO tried to speak. Mr. Moore, we can assure you that Mr. Brent's behavior does not reflect our values. He's already been suspended pending. Malik raised a hand, just slightly. It was enough. He shouldn't be suspended, Malik said, turning to the window where local news vans had started lining up outside. He should be removed. At that exact moment, two uniformed security officers appeared at the boardroom door. Kyle Brent stood in the hallway, nervously nursing a fresh cup of coffee, oblivious to the storm headed his way. Then he saw the guards. Wait, what's this? He stammered, stepping back. Mr. Brent, one of the officers said, we've been instructed to escort you off the premises. Please gather your things. What? No, this is a mistake. You can't just. But it was already happening. Phones came out. Staff members filmed from behind cubicle walls. The man who just hours ago puffed his chest and called Elijah Moore a scammer was now being led out by the arm like a thief. Click, click, click. The cameras outside caught every frame of it. The shame, the panic, the confusion. Reporters shouted questions as Kyle shielded his face. Malik didn't flinch. He stood beside his father, walking with him slowly through the lobby, past curious customers and wide-eyed tellers who now saw Elijah in a whole new light. Once outside, a reporter shoved a mic toward Malik. Mr. Moore, will you be going forward with the $5 billion merger? Malik paused, looked around at the crowd, and then at his father. Elijah's eyes were tired, but proud. No, Malik said simply. The deal is canceled. Gasps. The microphones rushed forward again. Wait, you're canceling the entire deal? Why not just accept the apology? Malik looked directly into the cameras now, his voice steady but strong. No money is worth our dignity, he said. Not mine. Not my father's. Not yours. He took a step closer. We give these institutions our trust. We put our lives, our savings, our dreams into their hands. And in return, we expect humanity. If a man who helped build this country can't walk into a bank and be treated with basic respect, then that bank doesn't deserve our business. Elijah touched Malik's elbow gently. You okay, Dad? Malik asked again, softly this time. Elijah gave a slow nod. You didn't have to do all that. Malik looked at him, eyes warm but fierce. Yes, I did. You taught me everything. You taught me how to fight without fists, how to lead with honor. You marched in the 60s. You built your own company when no one would lend you a dime. You gave me everything I needed to stand tall. His voice caught just slightly. And today, a man tried to treat you like nothing. Elijah gave a faint chuckle. Didn't work, though, did it? Malik smiled back. Not even close. They stood together as the sun began to set over the city skyline. Behind them, the bank's PR team scrambled to control the narrative. But it was too late. Outside, people had gathered, not just reporters, but everyday citizens. Some clapped. Others simply nodded, silently acknowledging the moment. A middle-aged black man in work clothes whispered to Elijah as he passed, You stood tall for all of us today, sir. And Elijah, humble as always, simply nodded and said, Thank you, son. Within hours of Malik Moore's public statement, the story ignited like wildfire across every corner of social media. By mid-afternoon, #RespectOurElders was trending in the US, UK, Canada, and Australia. Influencers reposted clips of Elijah's quiet dignity standing beside his son. News anchors replayed Malik's closing line, No money is worth our dignity, on every major network. In living rooms and lounges, people paused their Sunday routines to watch the viral video, an elderly man's calm resistance sending shockwaves through a multinational bank. Opinion columns exploded with titles like, When Dignity Outweighs Dollars, and the $5 billion Lesson in Respect. Podcast hosts dedicated entire episodes to dissecting the moment, the father's stoic grace, the son's surgical justice, and the bank manager's abrupt fall from grace. At Moretech headquarters, employees gathered around conference room screens, cheering as the count climbed. 25 million views on Malik's post in under 12 hours, 100,000 new followers for both father and son. Thousands of charitable donations to community banking initiatives. Malik's phone buzzed relentlessly, interview requests from the Today Show, BBC World News, and NPR's Morning Edition. But while the world watched, Moretech took action. Earlier that morning, Malik had signed the paperwork redirecting the $5 billion merger funds into a brand new venture, More Digital Trust, a Black-owned digital bank designed to serve underbanked neighborhoods. Within 48 hours, developers at MoreTech began coding the app's secure vault, community grants team started drafting partnerships with local credit unions, and marketing assembled a nationwide tour to introduce the platform. Meanwhile, other banks scrambled. Rival financial institutions flooded Malik's inbox with pleading offers. Let us underwrite. We'll match your ethics charter. We promise zero tolerance for discrimination. But Malik replied with the same message he delivered on the bank lobby steps. Respect, and respect alone, earns our business. Their checks arrived uncashed. Across the country, community organizers used Elijah's story as a rallying cry. In Detroit, a grassroots campaign held Respect Our Elders bake sales, funneling proceeds into legal aid funds for seniors facing financial abuse. In Atlanta, a local credit union launched a Dignity First scholarship in Elijah's name to support first-generation Black entrepreneurs. Letters poured in for Elijah Moore, over 3,000 by the end of the week, from children who watched their grandparents share the viral clip, from veterans who saw in him echoes of their own service, from strangers who simply wanted to say thank you. At MoreTech's gated campus, a small army of interns sorted and delivered these letters. One envelope stood out, a hand-drawn card from a little girl in Chicago, her crayon scrawl reading, "Dear Grandpa, you are my hero." Then came an unexpected honor. The mayor of the city, moved by Elijah's quiet courage and the positive outpouring, issued an official proclamation. July 15th would forever be Elijah Moore Day. At a ceremony held on the steps of City Hall, Elijah stood beside Malik as the mayor read the decree. Children from local schools sang the national anthem. A jazz band played Lift Every Voice and Sing. Reporters snapped photos of the two generations of Moores beaming in the summer sun. Elijah, usually reserved, addressed the crowd. "This day is not just for me," he said softly into the mic. "It's for every elder who's ever been overlooked, every voice that went unheard. Let us use this moment not just to celebrate, but to change how we treat one another." The applause that followed was thunderous. Back in the corporate world, Regal Financial Holdings released a formal ethics charter, citing MoreTech's new digital bank as inspiration. They pledged mandatory bias training for every branch, independent audits of customer interactions, and an advisory council of community leaders, including Elijah Moore himself. By the time the dust settled, one thing was clear: the world had shifted. A single act, an ID thrown to the floor, a son's relentless defense, had sparked a movement. Banks began rebranding around respect. Tech companies launched elder-friendly UX initiatives. Social media challenges encouraged users to share stories of senior dignity. And through it all, Elijah Moore remained the quiet sinner, a man who, despite decades of hardship and triumph, never lost his grace. He continued to walk into that same Lexington National Bank branch, now freshly painted and staffed with new managers, and withdraw a few dollars for coffee at the cafe next door, greeted by smiles instead of sneers. Because in the end, dignity isn't a transaction. It's a promise that no matter who you are, or what you wear, or how many dollars you hold, you deserve to be treated like a human being first. And that promise, once broken, can never be bought back. Moral: don't judge someone by what they wear or how old they are. You never know whose father, mother, or hero they might be. Because sometimes, the one you disrespect might be the reason your entire empire crumbles.